it to you. You've got to unbox it. You've got to find space in the rack. You've got to put it in the rack and network it and connect it to storage and add an operating system and then put on whatever applications are required. And there's probably 9 levels of process and change control that you've got to go through in order to do that. So the time difference between a new service request and a new service these days is honestly measured in a month or more. It's measured in weeks. Well, when you move to virtualization, virtualization says, all right, what if I just have a bunch of equipment that is available and that creates an amount of supply? So it's a certain supply of resources that I can then apply to virtual machines. And I can then rapidly deploy new virtual machines when that service request comes in. As you'll find out a little later on, with the right technologies in place, you can create very nice templates and then clone a VM from a template so that you know you have a configuration-controlled VM right from the get-go. And if you have enough resource supply, if you have enough CPU and memory and network and storage, well, you're going to be able to provision that virtual machine, and you'll have that virtual machine up in minutes or hours instead of a month. That's great. That's a great thing for management. That's a great thing for reducing the drag that IT places on business agility. I know those are businessy kinds of topics, but you know, every time that your business comes to you and they have to plan a month ahead of time for those sorts of things, well, that's not a great deal. Also, virtualization, when you implement the right functions, right, when you implement the right protective measures that come with virtualization, you also reduce the risk of server failure. Now, depending on what level of protections you want to put in place, the server itself might fail, right? VMware's HA, if I lose a host, I'm going to lose that virtual machine, but I'm going to lose it for, I don't know, 3 minutes, 5 minutes at the most, before it automatically powers on somewhere else. When was the last time you were out at a barbecue? And it's a Saturday afternoon, maybe you've had a beer or two, you know, you're cooking up steaks and your pager goes off because one of your servers has failed. Well, how many minutes does it take for you to get that server back online and running again? You might have to, you know, put down the barbecue tongs and get in your car and drive to work. And if you're living on the other side of town, well, there could be traffic. So it could take a really long period of time to get that server back up and operational again. So just the sheer operational issues associated with server failure and applying HA to that or DRS or even fault tolerance to that really reduces the amount of downtime that a server is going to have whenever actual downtime occurs. So virtualization in and of itself really improves the availability of services, and it also means that you can perhaps you can stay at the barbecue instead of having to drive into work. It also allows you to optimize the use of those expensive physical resources. Right? I think I mentioned that, you know, I don't know, the average utilization of a Windows server industry-wide, I have been told, is somewhere in like 5 to 7% worldwide. So you go to any Windows server, and 93 to 95% of the time, that Windows server is just idly flipping ones and zeros back and forth to keep itself busy until it needs to actually do something. And I don't know, if you're a manager and you have a person, an employee that's only working, you know, 7% of the time, what are you going to do with that employee? Well, you're probably going to either give them more work or tell them that they need to go find another job. But why do we do this with our servers? It's expensive. They're very expensive. And then running them with power and cooling is even more expensive. So squishing together those unused processor cycles across many servers allows us to have a more optimized use of those expensive physical resources. Virtualization in and of itself means that I'm getting more out of the stuff that I paid for, and that's great. A real big benefit here, too, is this whole notion of disaster recovery and making disaster recovery finally cost-effective. I have a buddy of mine who was working in a financial services organization, and this is back in the way old days prior to virtual